Hello, hello, DMG's Jim here, continuing on our reading through the frickin' manuals, all that kind of good stuff here. Apologies, get that stuff. 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, audiobook mode. Been trapped in the touring the multiverse section for quite a while, but we're trying to truck through and get it done. So enough talking, let's do it. First thing we'll do is read word for word, line for line. Second thing we'll do is offer a little bit of commentary, maybe some other resources if you're interested. And I'm sure most of you will be interested in, because the next one is the Feywild. Preamble. Please don't be disappointed. There's not a ton of shit here. As much as we talk about the Feywild in 5e, this information is somewhat lacking. But let's see what we can do to at least understand what they give us. So, the Feywild, also called the Plain of Fairy, is a land of soft lights and wonder, a place of music and light. The plain responds to unfettered emotion. Flowers turn and tremble in the presence of a heated argument. Grass withers under the feet of one who sees with malice, and birds chirp merrily in the presence of those who are joyous and squawk angrily at those who are dour. Time and distance in the Feywild are mutable as the plain's geography. Roads are uncommon, and the ones that exist change as frequently as the land around themselves. Feywild natives are accustomed to the plain's mutability, but it can be terribly disorienting to visitors. The Feywild exists in parallel to the material plane as an alternate dimension that occupies the same cosmological space. When moving from the material plane to the Feywild, travelers usually find themselves in a location similar to the one they left, but more marvelous and magical, and often more vibrant and colorful as well. Adventurers climbing a volcano on the material plane might suddenly find themselves scaling a Feywild mountain topped with skyscraper-sized crystals that glow with an internal fire. Leaving behind a wide and muddy river on the material plane, characters might appear beside a clear and winding brook whose waters glitter like diamonds in the Feywild. In the heart of a dismal marsh might lie a portal leading to a vast bog filled with eerie lights and sinister shapes twisting in the waters. And moving to the Feywild from old ruins on the material plane might put a traveler at the door of an archfey's castle. Domains of Delight. Much of the Feywild is governed by powerful Fey called Archfey. The area under a particular Archfey's command, called a Domain of Delight, reflects the character and desires of its ruler. Some domains are bright and cheery, bathed in perpetual sunlight and washed in colorful wildflowers, while others are gloomy and drab, casting unending twilight. Most of them change with the emotional states of their rulers. The following section describes a handful of the best-known domains of delight. Fable Rise, the domain of a story-spinning spider archfey named Yarn Spinner. Fable Rise is a rambling thicket of twisted roots, thorny vines, and sinuous creepers. This vegetation weaves together to form long tunnels, grand hallways, and enormous domes. Yarn Spinner loves reading the stories to animals that occupy his domain. The Gloaming Court. The Queen of Air and Darkness rules the Gloaming Court, a realm of twilight, fireflies, cobwebs, and autumn leaves, accompanied by the music of hooting owls and croaking frogs. The Fae of the Gloaming Court shun the formalized etiquette and rituals of the Summer Court, see below, instead prizing a behavior that is intuitive and instinctual. Prismeer. Prismeer is a large domain belonging to the archfey Zyblina. It encompasses a vast swamp called Hither, an ancient forest named Tither, and a stormy mountainous landscape called Yon. Zyblina resides in the Palace of Heart's Desire, situated where the three portions of her realms meet. As its name suggests, the palace is fabled as a destination for anyone seeking their heart's desire. On some worlds, Zyblina is regarded as a fairy godmother of sorts, granting wishes to the lost, the forsaken, or the betrayed. Sometimes her wishes bring happiness, other times despair. Prismeer is detailed in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book. Summer Court. Ruled by the Archfey Queen Titania, the Summer Court is the most settled and pastoral domain in the Feywild. Wrapped in the warmth of a perpetual summer day with fluttering butterflies and a riot of colorful flowers, the lands of the Summer Court mimic the trappings of courtly life in some realms of the material plane. The residents of this court wear elegant clothing and value elaborate ceremony and ritualized etiquette, and the Fae are quick to shun those who flout the Summer Court's Baroque rules. Fae Crossings, the next thing we're talking about. Fae Crossings are places of mystery and beauty on the material plane that have a near-perfect mirror in the Feywild. creating a portal where the two planes touch. A traveler passes through a Fey crossing by entering a clearing, wading into a pool, passing into a circle of mushrooms, or crawling under the trunk of a tree. To the traveler, it seems like simply moving into the Feywild. To an observer, the traveler is there one moment and gone the next. Like other portals between planes, most Fey crossings open infrequently. A crossing might open only during a full moon on the dawn of a particular day or for someone carrying a certain type of item. A Fey crossing can be closed permanently if the land on either side is dramatically altered. For example, if a castle is built over the clearing on the material plane. Feywild magic. Tales speak of children kidnapped by Fey creatures and spirited away to the Feywild, only to return to their parents years later without having aged a day and with no memories of their captors or the realm they came from. Likewise, adventurers who return from an excursion to the Feywild are often alarmed to discover upon their return that time flows differently on the plane of fairy and that memories of their visit are hazy. You can use these optional rules to reflect the strange magic that suffuses the plane. Memory loss. A creature that leaves the Feywild makes a DC 10 Wisdom saving throw. Fey creatures automatically succeed on the saving throw, as do creatures that have the Fey ancestry trait, such as elves. On a failed save, the creature remembers nothing from its time spent on the Feywild. On a successful save, the creature's memories remain intact but a little bit hazy. Any spell that can end a curse can restore the creature's lost memories. Time warp. While time seems to pass normally in the Feywild, characters might spend a day there and realize upon leaving the plane that less or more time has elapsed everywhere else in the multiverse. Whenever a creature or group of creature leaves the Feywild after spending at least one day on that plane, you can choose a time change that works best for your campaign, if any at all, or roll on the Feywild time warp table. A wish spell can be used to remove the effect on up to 10 creatures. Some powerful Fey have the ability to grant such wishes and might do so if the beneficiaries agree to subject themselves to a Gia spell and complete a quest after the wish spell is cast. So, the Feywild Time Warp, you're using a D20. There's 6 possibilities here. On a 1 or 2, days become minutes, meaning the days for your players become, it's one side on the Feywild, and the second number is the material plane. So if your players have been in the Feywild for 5 days, it's only been 5 minutes in real time, material time. 3 to 6, days become hours. 7 to 13, no change. 14 to 17, days become weeks. Days become months at 18 to 19, and at 20 can be days become years. Now, I'll comment when I do some comments, sorry. Feywild adventures. The Feywild gives physical expression to powerful emotion and excels at metaphor. When characters venture into the Feywild, they might find themselves robbed of a cherished memory or a deep regret, then later find the stolen memories embodied in little figurines or lockets. A mischievous sprite might sneak up behind a character who is laughing loudly and steal their laughter, robbing the character of the ability to laugh until the sprite is found, and laughter, perhaps taking physical form as a bouquet of lovely flowers, has been reclaimed. And that's kind of it there. So that's the end of the reading. If you're here for the audiobook part, you can push that stop button and get ready for the next video. No harm, no foul. Appreciate you being here. A little bit of commentary. There is a lot of mention in Feywild, fairies, Fey, etc. in 5e. And the idea that it is a parallel plane should be enough for some DMs to be able just to say, okay, so I take Greyhawk and add more flowers and less buildings. Yeah, you can exactly do that and you're perfectly fine. Take whatever world that you're using and make it a parallel but wilder version of it and you're good to go. If you're playing in Forgotten Realms and your players are in Waterdeep and they go through a Fey crossing and head back towards where Waterdeep once was, it may just simply be a tower, a small sheep's shed, and a big mountain instead, surrounded by fields of grain. You don't have to redraw maps. You don't have to rebuild your worlds. You just have to take the world that you're playing in, whatever setting it is, and make it a parallel with just more wilderness going to it, more wildness, more color, more animals, more vibrancy, or more shadows and more craggy builds, more of what's there, more natural than what it is. That's all you got to focus on. Your world with more trees, your world with more rocks, your world with more flowers. That's the Feywild. There's a couple locations that are given. One of the things to keep in mind before we go into an additional source is this time warp. It really sounds fun, but if a day becomes a year and your players have been in the Feywild for 3 days, 3 years passed in real time when they go home. The adventure that they were on may have already been resolved. The big bad guy may have won. Another group of heroes may have shown up already. So please use caution when you're doing the time warp, especially if you're extending the material plane time. If you're making a day become a week or a month or even a year, make sure that you're aware of how that shifts your timeline on the material plane while your players are in the Feywild for 3 days. 3 days ain't a big deal here, but 3 years is a long time on the material plane. That's the first thing I want to kind of point out there. The second thing, obviously, is resources. We are looking at the 4th edition. I know, gasp. What? 4th edition? Yeah, 4th edition. All content's got the potential to be good content. Don't be an edition snob. Don't throw away content just because it's not in the edition that you're playing. As you've seen so far while we've toured the multiverse, 5e gives us next to nothing for the multiverse, while we can rely on our older editions to fill in lots of gaps. And that's going to include the Feywild, because the Feywild officially wasn't a thing. It was mentioned as the Plane of Fairy in 2nd edition, briefly mentioned as the Plane of Fairy in the 3rd edition, but it was actually fleshed out in 4th edition D&D. So pick you up a copy of the Manual of the Planes, and you're probably going to get your most, if you're looking for official content anyway, you get the most comprehensive overview of the Feywild, as well as lists of some of the non-player characters, some of the races, the interactions, the politics, all that kind of stuff, and certainly some locations. Both the Feywild and the Feydark are covered in this book. So yeah, if you're into the Feywild, or alternatively Shadowfell, we'll see that when we get to this section again, this is going to be your go-to. This will be your good one-stop shop. But remember, you don't necessarily need it. The Feywild is a parallel copy of the material plane setting that you're using, with less buildings and more wild. If you can go that simple and be just fine. But if you want more, there's certainly more out there. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate your time. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Likes, follows, subscribes are appreciated. More importantly, hopefully we'll see you back for the next one. We'll see you soon.